Welcome back to A Decade Never to Be Forgotten. We've got Jake Harmer back on the program. Jake, welcome back to A Decade Never to Be Forgotten. How are you?
Doing well. Happy to be here. It's funny to think back on a full year, and I was looking through some notes today just on, I don't know, journals and things like that. And it's interesting to think, okay, over the last 12 months, what has changed? What's been the same? What have I learned? A little bit of what did I expect to do and didn't do? And it's
Yeah.
good. Good to have some accountability.
Yeah, for sure. So, from your own perspective, before I ask any of my questions, number one, want to remind everybody that you can get a Decade Never to Be Forgotten journal at adntbf.com. So please do go check that out and sign up, and you can keep your own 10-year journal that asks you the same 366 questions repeated over the course of a whole year, and then it repeats them again. It's pretty fun to look back and see how your stuff has gone. That's a free service that I'm never going to charge anything for. I just think it's fun to do it and fun to have it there. You can get an email every day that tells you here's the question for today. So go check that out. Um, so first and foremost, what have you learned, Jake? What have you been reflecting on over your life over the last year?
Yeah, so biggest thing over the last year was had another baby. Was born in July last year, and so he just hit a year old, and now he just wanders around the house making messes. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We just got our oldest two off to school last week, and so now the house is quieter than it has been all summer. But yeah, I mean that's been big. Another year into Family History Storybooks. We just hit about 120 books that we've published,
Amazing.
which is a lot. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome. How
so many
many
cool stories.
how many have you done this year? Because I want to say there were like 30 last year. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think I did about 50, 55 last year,
Okay.
and broke 100 right around Roots Tech. So it was March. I hit 100.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think it averages about one a week. Some weeks are two or three, and some are zero. But um, yeah, I've got three writers working, part time as gig. As orders come in, I'll just send them
Mhm.
out to those guys to write the stories. But yeah, that's been fun. It hasn't taken off like I would hope. Obviously, I'm still working the day job, but
Yeah.
it's been a really fun project, and it's nice to have the extra income on the side too.
Yeah, that's great. So, so when we recorded last year, it was in the first half of the year, so it was probably, probably about 30. So you've done almost 100 since then, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, I think it's
That's
been close to that. Yeah.
that's pretty good. So let's stay there for just a moment and tell me about how that business has uh how that has gone in your like day-to-day work and in your what you're thinking about, what matters, what is valuable to you from all that. What do you think?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I think about is, you know, what would make my storybook, right? So, if I were to graduate right now and move on into the eternities, like what would actually, what are the 15 to 20 experiences from my life that would make the pages of that book? Um, is it, how many childhood memories, how, meeting my wife, serving a mission, stuff like that, right? Versus 20 years from now, how many am I going to add in the next 20 years? As I think about most of the books that I've done, there's maybe a paragraph on what the person did for a career.
Yeah.
It's mostly funny experiences or lessons, lots of spiritual experiences, miracles, things like that. But it makes me think, like, what do I want? What am I doing right now that I would like to be remembered for, right?
Yeah.
So that's been really cool. Just I've learned so much about church history. We've probably done 50 books now on pioneers. And it's just amazing to me what they went through for the cause of Zion, and recognizing like, okay, we're gonna uproot our family who's been here. I don't know. I think we have a little bit of a short-term view here in the U.S. because it's like, well, we've been here for 5 generations or 10,
Yeah.
like not that long ultimately, but these people leaving England, leaving Denmark, whatever, their family had been there forever. It wasn't just a handful of generations back, but it was forever. And so they were leaving that, and why? It wasn't because Utah was the Garden of Eden. They were coming out here to escape persecution. That's another thing I think we whitewash a lot when we talk about church history is there were mobs everywhere, and they hated us from from France to England to Denmark to everywhere. And so they experienced all kinds of stuff. I just did a book on my third great grandpa he served his mission with John Taylor, and they opened France, which again is just fascinating to me that England and France were never friends, and best of friends now than they ever have been in history. But they went over to France and started preaching the gospel in France, and ultimately it was right around the time that Napoleon III staged a coup and took over the government and became the emperor again and all that. And John Taylor was basically the government announced they wanted to arrest John Taylor because of something he'd published. And so he and my grandpa run over into a member's home, and this member offers John Taylor a gun. You'll need this to escape the country. And John Taylor, his quote was something like, "Oh, do they have buffaloes here? I don't shoot anything smaller than a buffalo," which is
Great.
great. Anyway, so then he and my grandpa escape to the shore or to the coast, and they take a little sailboat over to the island of Jersey, and John Taylor's able to escape back to England from there. And then my grandpa stays there another like 4 years in the mission presidency. And anyway, just see stuff like that. I'm like, man, they were amazing.
Yeah.
The yeah, the risks that they faced and the miracles that they saw, just amazing.
Yeah. So as you think about your own mortality and what you would put in there, you're not going to have the same kind of experiences of, most likely not, of
Yeah,
dealing
let's
with
hope not, right?
persecution. Yeah. Um, and so like, how are you thinking about the, the impact that you leave, and how are you making decisions for yourself? And like, does that into your mind, or are you just like, it'll just be what it'll be? What are you thinking about that?
It does, again, as I think about like career wise, what will my storybook say my career was? Is it going to say supply chain professional? Like that's kind of lame. You know, at this point, would I include it in the book? Probably not, you know. Would it say, yeah, I like to, yeah, tell people I'm a children's book author, sort of, that's
Yeah.
kind of fun. I have printed now 8,000 books or more than 8,000 books, like printed copies, right?
Wow.
On the
Dude, that's
120
awesome.
titles, which is cool. Yeah, I don't know if I know any authors who had that many books printed. So that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and it's cool to imagine they're in, I don't know, 7,000 homes or whatever. Most of
Yeah.
them, you're not going to buy a book that you're not related to. And so it's spreading word of mouth that way. I know that two of the books have gone to apostles, which is really cool because they're, family members found them and said, "Oh, Elder, I won't say their names, but Elder so and so is a descendant of this person, or his wife's a descendant, and so I'm going to send them a copy." And that's really cool to think about that they've got the book. They at least maybe saw it and threw it away. I don't know.
Who knows? So let me ask you about the process, because if I remember correctly, you were using AI for all the artwork, but you were writing the stories yourself, and so you've hired people to do that. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so I have it's a sister-in-law and a cousin, and then a priest in my ward here who's
Oh,
very mature for
nice.
his age.
That's great.
Yeah, so I just basically will, as orders come in or as people pick their ancestors, I'll send that along to each of the writers and say, "Hey, do you want this one?" And they'll go out and do the research and write up the story. It's a mix of AI and human writing. Usually, I find for myself that I like to skim read the documents and pull out the most interesting stories to what I think is interesting. Because a lot of the time, like it's a singular event that really didn't shape the person's life at all, but it's it shows me their personality a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons from this is I just want to meet these people, and it's hard to really understand who they are based on journal entries or newspaper articles or whatever. I want to meet them and see what they're like. So that little pranks and funny stories like that really show, I think, a person's personality a little bit more. But yeah, so we'll go through there and kind of put together bullet points of what I want the story to look like. And then from there, usually use AI to flesh it out, kind of fill out the whole story, and then go in and edit and clean it up and make it be what I want it to be. But then, yeah, the writer will send it back to me, and I go through and edit it again, and then we'll send it over to the client. And then we'll go through and make any changes that they like. Some of them uh, like to wordsmith every single page and every phrase,
Yeah,
and we give them, it's one thing I've decided is I want them to really love the book, and so we
for
do
sure.
unlimited revisions. That's come back to bite me on a handful, but most people just like it pretty much the way it is. They'll tweak a couple of things, but
Yeah.
yeah, a few of them, it's just about every sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you could have done a better job just writing this yourself and sending that in
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
something else. Yeah, that's funny. So tell me about the process for creating the images. Um, I didn't ask a lot about this last year, but AI has changed so much so fast that I think it's worthwhile to document this, the
Yeah,
tools you're using and some of your processes and things like that, that in another year or two, we're going to look back and be like, whoa, that was a lot of work that we still had to do with how
yeah.
fast AI is progressing. So take me back a little bit and talk about what you started out using and how much effort and prompting needed to happen, what you're using now, how you've improved the workflow, different things like that.
Yeah. When I first was starting with this, Midjourney was the image AI that was the one to beat. I mean, their pictures just looked so much better than everybody else's, and so that's what I did for the first couple of books. It was really the interface was really frustrating. It was akin to coding, where you'd have to put in different little short prompts and things, and try and tell it the angle you want the picture from, and try and uh, reminded it was very complicated, and so when I look back at my first couple of books, it's like, oh, those are those are pretty bad.
Yeah.
um
Well, and real quick, that's one thing that's so funny. Um I can't remember. I think I'd already written the Latter-day Lent book last year
uh-huh.
and used when we did our thing and used Chat GPT to make all the images and
Yeah.
and looking back at that now, I'm like, oh man, those do not look good. I could do so much better,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
sure you're experiencing a ton of that.
Yeah, I just went through and refreshed. I think it was the second book that I did, second or third book that I did. I went through and redid a bunch of the pictures and expanded it a little bit. I was going out to a family reunion out in Vernal, where this ancestor had settled. And so we went out there, and I brought a bunch of the books to that reunion. It was a reunion for my fourth great grandma. So there were lots of descendants that people, I don't know, and almost, I don't want to say it, don't care to know. Like, we're far enough related that it's like, yeah, sure, we're related. You're my fourth
Yeah.
cousin, right? But anyway, that was fun to do, to go through and refresh it. But yeah, so I started with Midjourney and did that for the first little while, and then over time, ChatGPT with Dolly kind of caught up to it, and that was more convenient. And I could set up a custom GPT in there, and so it would remember and learn as I said, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, uh, and then I'll go through and do a lot of still a lot less now, but kind of photoshopping, trying to clean up like hands. Hands used to be terrible. I would go through and I would have to add fingers in one or two pictures per book. And now it's like if I yeah, maybe one per book, and then I'll just respin the image and it'll get it right. So
Yeah.
that's been huge. Consistency of characters has been very different. I used to say when I was training these writers, I would say, okay, you have to batch create the pictures and do it in order of like, you have 3 pictures as a kid, and then 3 as a teenager, 3 as a young adult, 3 as an older adult, whatever. So you create those together, even if the story bounces around, but create the images in a row, and you might get a consistent character. Try and get pictures from behind the person, try and get landscapes instead of people, stuff like that. And now yeah, we've got it to the point where it is consistent. It's the same person each time. You can age them, you can de-age them. It's pretty good. And
So
I
so
did also, yeah, go ahead.
so the writers are writing the images as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, they're doing the pictures
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Okay,
So when they
cool.
send it to me, it's a draft, and then
Okay.
I just go through, and it's good to have 2 sets of eyes. Actually, it's good to have a lot more. I'm amazed. A lot of the time we'll publish the book still, and I've looked through it, the writer looked through it, the client looked through it, and usually shared it with a few other family members, and we still will miss
Yeah.
typos and pictures and stuff like that. That where, oh, there's a random unidentified animal in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, then for a while, this is probably starting last year at Roots Tech, I'd started using face swap tools. Um, and that way we could get it to actually really look like the people. But again, it was an extra step, and it was tedious, but it was really cool to see uh, consistency. And now even ChatGPT will mostly do that for us.
Yeah.
So it's definitely gotten a lot easier. There's a lot I need to continue to work on. Like there are at Roots Tech this year, there were probably 4 other copycats that weren't there in previous years
Really?
doing similar stuff, and 2 of them came up to me. I was kind of surprised. 2 of them came up to me and straight up were like, "Okay, I've seen your stuff online. You guys do awesome work. How do you get it to be consistent? Like, how do you get consistent characters?" And I'm like, "Why would I tell you that?"
Yes,
you know?
that is called a competitive
Yeah,
advantage.
I'm like, that's a trade secret, guys. Anyway, that was
Yeah.
that was wild to me that because it did. Our sales this year were a lot lower than previous years, and that was a bummer. They're pretty much all doing a full AI service though, where you go in and you do all the work yourself, and ours is we do it all for you, right?
Yeah.
Even as much the research, going through documents and things like that. And so that's kind of where we're positioned. It would be interesting to try and set up a really low cost model. Those other ones are all basically it's a free or low cost to get started, and then if you want to print the books, it's like $35 a book. It's very expensive to print the books, and ours is a little bit more backwards, where it's expensive at the setup, but then once the book's created, A, you get unlimited revisions, and then B, it's once the book's set up, it's cheap to print, and we want them out to everybody. Give it to
Yeah.
all your long lost cousins.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
pros and cons. It's
Yeah. But that is the cool thing that you can get them all for free
Yep.
digitally, and then you can buy the other ones for not that much, which is pretty
Yeah.
awesome. And then those automatically are those print on demand? That's the word I was looking for
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you do that.
Yeah. They're just
Yeah.
printed through Amazon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. Well, all right. So are you still using ChatGPT, or are you using a different image model?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still using ChatGPT for
Okay.
pictures, and it's been really good. What I need to do next, and again, this is if I had more time and energy,
Yeah.
is to go out and build out the process a little bit more. It's mostly consecutive, like image and then work on something else and then go back and pull the images down.
Yeah.
But I definitely, it'd be great to get to automate more of that process.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Um,
pulling it. I use Canva for staging the books and everything. It'd be great to be able to automate a lot of that process, pulling it into Canva,
yeah.
trying to get everything organized there.
Yeah. I am sure that there are ways to make that a little bit easier.
Hmm.
So when your writers are creating these, they're just going into ChatGPT themselves in their own account and creating and doing all that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So last question still on AI. We had talked before about um, creating video that's indistinguishable from real video. Um,
Yeah.
and we talked about truth and discernment. Like, where are you at on that right now? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we talked about President Nelson's quote of "It'll be impossible to survive spiritually without the Holy Ghost," right? And uh, I've seen the videos coming out of Sea Dance over the last 6 months, especially. It's indistinguishable. I mean, the
Yeah.
tells right now are that it's a 5-second clip, and then it changes to a different view, but it's consistent. It's really high quality. You really cannot know for them. Like you have to use your intuition to decide is this real or not. And I've seen one of my favorites that I saw. This is just a picture, but somebody
Yeah,
posted.
that's super fascinating. Because it's not.
Sorry, I think we had a lag there.
Yeah,
One of
go
the
ahead. You were saying one of your
one of
favorites that you
the
saw.
yeah, one of the most interesting things that I saw, it was a picture of a Monet painting. And it said, I posted this and said that I created this with AI. What do you guys think? And all of the comments said, oh, it's terrible. Oh, you can tell if you look here. And oh, you can tell it's soulless, right? And it's obviously AI. And then at the bottom, someone was like, oh, actually, this is a real Monet painting. None of you can tell the difference.
Yeah,
And again,
for
I
sure.
yeah, I think we talked a little bit about artists and all that, and I I, I admire artists. I've tried to paint. I enjoy it actually. I really like it. Wish I had more time for that too as a hobby, but I'm never going to get to the point where I could do anything that I wouldn't be embarrassed
Yeah,
to
yeah,
share with others. So it's just, yeah, the world is changing there. My books, especially these books, are not going to get made without AI. No one's going to pay $5,000 to pay an artist to create pictures for a storybook about grandma, right?
yeah. Yeah. So on that cost thing, does it is it working out that you're able to make money on these, or are you spending so much and paying for subscriptions or whatever that it's not working out?
It's working out. I pay the writers well. Again, they're family members, so I want them to be happy and want it to be a thing that we're working on together. I'm not reliant on this money for anything.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be the point where, if I'm getting paid $10 an hour working on this, I'm not going to enjoy it as much as if I'm being
Yeah.
paid. Where it's, make it worth it. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I do run promotions all the time that most, probably 90% of the books, people are ordering a package at, $200 off or something.
Yeah.
And so I need to mess with the pricing again as well. That's just lots of, if this were a full-time thing, I'd have a lot more time to put into it.
Yeah.
But
For
right now
sure.
it's early mornings and evenings, and
Yeah.
yeah, my wife's always like, "Why are you working? It's 9 o'clock at night." And I'm like, "Well, it's work, but it's fun." you
Well,
know?
this is my hobby and it happens to bring
Yeah,
in a little
yeah,
money, so like it's
right,
cool.
right.
It's cool.
I'm like, I could be watching Netflix, so
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, "Yeah, you could be watching Netflix with me."
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I think it's awesome that you've printed 8,000 books and have 120 titles. Like that is tremendous. And, in 8 more years, we don't know where this is going to be, but you may have given up on it. You may have gone all in on it. And you may have, 120,000 books by then. The thing
Yeah.
that I just love about it is that the stories are endless,
hmm
um, and there's so many people who have an amazing life that I just really love this whole idea, and I think that it's awesome. So I hope that this podcast lasts into a long time, and somebody uses this as research for making your book after you pass. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your church service. You are in the Bishopric. Tell me about
Yeah.
how that's going and what's going on there.
Yeah, so I'm halfway through now, assuming a 5-year term
Uh,
sentence. Um,
yeah.
and so it's been, yeah, it's been good. I'm definitely a lot more comfortable now. My grandpa had told me when I first got called that you'll know that you're good or good. I don't know. You don't look awkward when you're conducting sacrament meeting as soon as people stop telling you you did a good job conducting today.
Yeah.
And no one's told me that for a while, so I'm feeling pretty good there. Um, it's a heavy calling. Luckily, we have not dealt with much with like financial need or even I don't know spiritual need. I don't know what you want to call it, but we've got just a great ward. I think one of the best things for me has just been seeing the service that people are providing for each other, unprompted, unasked for, just all the time, and the willingness that we all have to serve each other. Um, yeah, a couple of experiences that have been really impressionable for the last year. We had a family that lost their mother, and she was 40 years old. I mean, just a terrible situation. Aneurysm. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. It just happened. And the two kids have come into Young Men's, Young Women's here this year, and both of them have made comments to me that have really hit me hard. One of them, we were doing a biking activity, and this kid, most of the kids had e-bikes. We were just riding the 6 mile loop by our houses here, and this kid didn't have an e-bike, and his gears didn't shift, and it was
Oh
stuck in the
man.
hardest gear. And I'm like, all right, I mean, it's pretty flat, but like, I have an extra bike at home. If you want to grab another bike, it's not an e-bike either. But he goes, nah, it'll make me stronger.
That's
And then
great.
a few months later, his sister spoke in sacrament meeting, and she said, God doesn't waste our struggles. And that one hit me really hard. This is just a couple of weeks ago. It made me think, like, yeah, especially we studied Job last week. Like, that, what does God cause versus what does He allow to happen? Those are age-old questions that there aren't neat, clean answers for. But I think God doesn't waste our struggles, and it makes me stronger. I think those are good answers. Um, and so yeah,
Yeah.
those things were great. I really enjoyed that, and I've thought a lot about those things.
Yeah. I do think that that is a pretty nice and tidy uh, answer to that question, that God doesn't waste our struggles. And I love that idea because everybody goes through struggles. That is a part of life. You can't do anything but go through struggles. And so it's just really amazing when somebody who's young can get that. And you know the way you learn that is through struggles.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
unfortunate that that's how it has to be learned, but it's also great that that's how it has to be learned, because it's not as hard to go through struggles when you believe that that is the case. and
right,
and
right.
that's the thing that's so amazing.
Yeah, we had a really tough experience in the ward too this last year with um, a, a convert or baptism who was flying, soaring, everything was awesome, and then one day just disappeared and never came back. Um, and there were so many miracles seeing him brought into the church. It was, I mean, to the point where uh, I had called a speaker. It was Easter Sunday last year, and I had asked one speaker to speak. We had like 5 lined up for short testimonies, and he texted me that morning and said, "Hey, I can't speak. I'm sick." And as I was walking into the building, there's another guy in the ward with his exact same name, and I smiled at him. I said, "Hey, you're on the program today." And so he's a great guy. He agreed to do it. Just again, it was just a testimony. It wasn't anything, not a big deal, but he got up and bore an awesome testimony. And this kid had been invited to church. He's 20 years old, 22 years old, never really been Christian in his life. And he shows up and sits with this family. And then dad gets up and bears his testimony, and he knows the family a little bit. And so that just really hit him hard. He told the missionaries after that, he said, that was the first time in my life I've understood faith, like understood why people go to church and why people have faith in Christianity and all that. And anyway, he ended up getting baptized. His baptism was funny too. There was a miscommunication and nobody filled the font. And so we all get there for the baptism and they've got the water on and it's like 6 inches deep.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
not going to
we went
work.
around, yeah, went around the church building and found garbage cans and pots and pans and we're using every single faucet in the church to try and fill this thing up. And it just wasn't going to get there. And so somebody volunteered, hey, I have a pool in my backyard and it's a quiet backyard. We can go do it there. And so we went over and did it in this backyard. And I was so embarrassed, on behalf of the church.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I talked to him and I'm like, hey, you know, uh, how are you feeling? I'm so sorry that this wasn't ready for you. And he goes, I just can't believe all these people are working so hard to help me get baptized.
oh,
And I was
that's
like,
cool.
whoa, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Anyway, so yeah, we put him to work in primary after a few months, and he was able to attend the temple and stuff like that. And then Christmas, he went home for Christmas back to Colorado, and then came back out here and just disappeared. And
yeah,
so we were able to catch him, and he pretty much texted everybody individually when we would text him and just said, I'm not interested anymore. Bye.
yeah,
I know where to find you if I need you. But we
yeah,
stopped by and met with him, and it was just it wasn't, I don't know how much of it was spiritual versus just a mental breakdown. I don't know. Anyway, that was heartbreaking, and I
yeah,
still hope we'll see him again because he was so happy, and it was so cool to see his life just light up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff is really tough when you see that happen, but it also, I was listening to Elder Kieran's talk at Education Week that he gave, was it last week
Yeah,
or something like that? And anyway, it was just so good. And one of the things that he said was that God is not in a hurry. And
yeah,
a lot of times we have this earthly consternation about whether or not God, whether or not somebody is doing what they should be doing or close enough to God or whatever the case is. And the reality is that we all have our own journey to go on to get back to Christ. Um, and it is sometimes a skiwampus path,
yep,
sometimes it
yep,
is meandering and slow and not how we think it should be, and yet it is, that's all part of the plan too. And so like it is okay that this guy is stepping back because he has his own personal relationship. And of course we all want it to be, everybody's
yeah,
doing their
yeah,
best all the time, but everybody has to go through their own path to get back to the Savior, and there's no shortcuts. There's
yep.
nothing anybody else can do for you. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with Job this week. That if he would Job be Job if he hadn't gone through all of the trials, right? The man he becomes, would he? I guess I don't know. I always kind of looked at it like, okay, he got all his stuff back,
Yeah,
so okay, we're back to square one. But no, he is a different person at the end of all those trials, and he doesn't. I don't think he trades those trials for anything,
yeah. He has to be a different person.
Hmm.
That is precisely what is needed to happen, and that's for all of us too, for whatever trials we go through.
Yeah,
So that is
and I
necessary.
think going back to the pioneers, that's what they went through. It was finding out
Mhm.
what they were made of, and realizing what they were willing to sacrifice for the gospel.
Yeah. And I do think that there is a parallel to our lives with that. Even though we may not have the exact same struggles that they did, we may not deal with mobs or persecution like they did, but there are other things that we need to do. And one of the things that you talked about was being more public facing or whatnot with your social media presence and things like
Yeah,
that, which obviously you can do through the Family History Storybooks. But what has that been like for you over this last year of sharing your testimony online?
yeah. So on X, it's pretty much a church account. Not always as nice as I probably should be, but there are a lot of dumb people on X too. So, um, it's funny, yeah, with Twitter, like I think I have one person that follows me who I actually know in real life. So it's a very, I don't know, interesting. Again, it's much more social than the other social medias, I think, or public. But like Instagram and Facebook, I have definitely posted a little bit more. And what I do, I try and incorporate a lot of just family values because there's just such a lack of that in the world. Um, and it is, I feel sometimes like a unicorn, like a 33-year-old guy with 4 kids and a wife, and like
Yeah.
life is good, God is good. That's what I want people to know. At the same time, I haven't like posted just devotional content. It's usually tied to something. So I know last year, my then 2 year, yeah, she was 2, almost 3. She had to have surgery on her neck. She had a growth on her neck that, um, anyway, had to have surgery for that. And I had a just neat spiritual experience with that, praying for her and giving her a blessing and feeling kind of an answer. And it's right around Easter. And I remember posting online about that a little bit. So yeah, I've tried to post a little bit more, again, without going the full influencer route.
Yeah. Mhm.
um, I do. I see so many people where, and I think I'm in the same boat where it's like, okay, I see that life is good for you and you're attending church and stuff, but you could use social media. I could use social media to share more spiritual insights and lessons that I've learned, and I probably should do that more. Um, but I also, yeah, I don't post the day-to-day stuff on social media. So it would be like, okay, am I wanting to post more, or am I wanting to delete my account and
Yeah.
go back
Yeah.
and forth, right?
I know. Yeah, that's a real question is it worth more to is it more worthwhile to have an account or not have an account? And I don't know the answer to that. And I almost never go on Facebook, and yet I still have an account there, and I'm
Yeah,
probably not going to delete it uh because there are times where I want to connect it to something. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
it's
And you're connecting to people that you have people on there who you're friends with. If you needed to contact them, you had them on Messenger, right?
yeah, yep. So
Actually, it's Facebook Marketplace. That's why we all have Facebook still.
that's right, man. Good thing they did that because otherwise
Oh yeah,
people
yeah,
would have left. That's funny. I do buy stuff on Facebook Marketplace regularly, so
yep, yeah,
that's
me
good.
too. But yeah, I think
Um,
about like to act or to be acted upon, right?
yeah,
So I should try and create content rather than just consume it.
yeah,
I think if you're creating that is good for you, good for the world.
yeah. And if you can be successful on there, my wife has a friend who was an influencer in like home redesign type spaces, and then she decided to issue all that and just do gospel focused stuff, and that's been really
Um,
interesting to watch also.
does she have like 1 million followers?
Yeah, something like that.
We'll have to talk offline. I did a book for her and she ghosted me.
Ah, bummer.
It was a really good book. Her grandpa was really cool, World War
Yeah.
II story. But yeah,
Oh,
she
that's great.
disappeared.
That's funny. Good times. Well, people are just people, so that things
Yeah.
happen. So one of the other things, coming back to your calling, is you're working with the young men because you're in the Bishopric, and so you mentioned something in our notes about setting up a longer term view of young men's and not just week to week, activity to activity. Tell me what you're
Yeah.
thinking there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of buzz online and stuff about what we used to have in the scouting program, what we don't have now, and I definitely feel that. I also hated lots of aspects of scouting, so
Yeah,
I'm not convinced that what we're doing is worse than scouting. But the one thing I do miss with that is working towards a longer term goal. Like, okay, we're going to set up the next 4 weeks and we're going to work on this merit badge, right? You're going to learn an actual skill and practice it and put it to use. And now the way I plan things with the boys, it's very kind of one off. We have 1 hour we're going to spend doing this, and next week we'll do something else. And it's mostly fun stuff. service projects, um, but not a lot of working towards bigger goals. And so that's one thing, I would love to see an Eagle Scout type award for young men to work towards, and a little bit more structure as
Yeah.
far
Or
as here are this,
process.
yeah, yeah, here are the skills I'd like to see, and I actually got to the point where I wrote something up. Um, I was going to call it like unto Moroni award, and give the boys challenges and things, but the handbook kind of says don't set goals for the youth and don't track their goals, and
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know,
and
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
that piece is really really fascinating because in our family we've been setting goals with the kids for uh
yeah,
well over a decade, and it's been really really powerful, and it is amazing when they set their own goals and
hmm,
when they actually like buy into it and get it.
yeah,
But it just takes a long time, and there's not as much structure as when you can say, here's this, Eagle Scout program or Young Women Personal Progress program that like lays everything out, and these are all the things that you need to know. And like that's all well and good. But what's even more powerful is when a kid says, I want to overcome this challenge that I'm having, and I'm going to figure out how to do that and reach out to people to get help with that. And so I am totally on board with the idea that we should not set goals for the kids and we should not be tracking
yeah,
them, but that doesn't mean that they should not set goals and that they should not be tracking them themselves. But
yeah,
that requires us as the adults involved to take a different approach and to be a different kind of support for them than the one who's keeping track of all that.
yeah. Well, I think the church, with a lot of different things over the last 5 or so years, they've said, look, we're not raising your kids for you. We're
Yep.
not cultivating your testimony for you. We're not, doing all these things. Like, you've got to, church is 2 hours now, young men's program. Like, we're not going to teach your kid all this stuff. You got to teach them. We're here to supplement. We're here to support, but it's on you. It's on the parents. And so, yeah, the parents, some of them are good at it. Some of them aren't as good.
Yeah. And we also have to be okay with that too, right, Jake?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we have to be okay with like yes, there could be something better for this kid, but they also have to live with the family that they have and be able to do that. And then we have to step up and listen to the spirit and be involved where it's appropriate for us to be involved.
Hmm.
So how do you make those kind of decisions and say, here's where I need to step in and provide more support, and here's where I need to step back and just let it happen? How do you decide
Yeah.
that in your current calling?
Um, a lot of it depends on the kid. If I know if they're pretty resilient and have, good families, I can push them a lot more. Kind of deciding when you just need to put your arm around them versus when you need to push them, and do your best there.
I like that. I like the idea of it comes down to knowing them and saying, "Hey, we don't we don't have a like a specific plan for everybody. We have a an individualized plan for you that's going to help you."
Yeah.
And that's the best way to go. But that's a lot harder than just saying everybody do what's in this book.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. That's what we gotta live with. So what are you trying to do to set up this more long-term view and support your boys and other things?
Yeah. I think I need to get the boys to have vision, right? Get them to make goals themselves, and then we can support them in those goals without tracking them, babysitting them. Uh, if somebody wants to, one thing we did last year that was really good, in beginning of October, we announced, okay, we're doing entrepreneurship month. And so for the next, we're going to do a couple of activities where we talk about kind of spinning up a business, I guess. It's a lot of small stuff with the boys, but we said your goal is to earn $200 in the next 2 months. And anybody that hits that goal, we're going to go skiing. in December. And so ultimately, I think two boys did it. Most of them didn't. They got, a lot of good ideas for businesses and things, but 12-year-olds don't need money. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, 14, 15-year-olds would have been better, but we're going to do that again for sure. I think it worked out pretty well, and it was a fun push for them to have a little bit longer term goal to work on. And then just entrepreneurship skills are so important,
Yeah. I
especially for them
mean,
funding missions and stuff like that.
yeah, they're going to be even more valuable as time goes on, where you can
Yeah.
figure out how to solve problems when an AI can do so much. It'll be
Yep.
interesting to see what
Yep.
that looks like.
Yeah, it reminds me, we did a home edition this last year, and had a general contractor handle, a big chunk of it, of course, the framing and handle the drywall and stuff like that. But we did a lot of the finishing work, the flooring, the paint, the trim, and all that. But then I also took on the plumbing and electrical. We had a bathroom and three bedrooms, basically an office and two bedrooms, and I did all that just using Grok. And it worked.
That's amazing.
It's Yeah, AI. Yeah, you got to use it. You got to use it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that. I mean, there are a lot of people. You and I are certainly on the front edge of this. There are a lot of people who, are basically just using it as a search engine and
Hmm.
looking at, what is, instead of Googling something, they're using AI to find the answers, and
Yeah.
there's so much more potential there. Um, so that's really fascinating. So what did you do? Did you, because obviously it's not doing the work for you, but
Right.
you're
Right.
you're looking up how to do things and how to problem solve and
Yeah. I
things like
mean,
that.
pictures of the electrical panel, and then understanding code and stuff like that. Where do I need outlets? How high up are they supposed to be? How close together are they supposed to be? Can I put this many outlets on this on the breaker? Stuff like that. So nothing major. Again, I mean, it's fairly simple. And I had an electrician tie it into the panel at the end, but just, yeah, it's funny, like, you're able to just figure that stuff out.
Yeah, it that is really really quite amazing. Um, Anything else you want to say about your calling and things like that?
Um, no, I don't think so. I had the chance to baptize my oldest daughter this year. She turned 8, and that was a really good experience.
That's awesome. So much fun.
Yeah,
That's
I think
great.
the neatest part for me, right when we got there a few minutes early, so we go get our jumpsuits on and stuff, and we sat down and said a prayer together, and I had her say the prayer. And it was just through her eyes, right, seeing what she's talking to Heavenly Father about was really neat.
Very cool. So you had last year we talked about these God knows me personally moments, and you've been keeping a list. Do you want to share that one?
Yeah, so I keep a list in my phone of I just call it my spiritual list, and it's a lot of insights from scriptures and whatever else, podcasts and things. But then it's a lot of just moments when a small miracle happens. And so one of them, I had this big work negotiation, and I don't put a ton of time thinking about work, but it was one of the few times where I knelt down and prayed about work. And as I kneel down to pray, this thought hits me, and I got up and wrote it down in the morning, went and looked into this, and it was the answer. And I mean, it was as I was praying, the answer came, and it's something I hadn't thought about for the months leading up to this negotiation. It was really cool. I haven't had many of those. I feel like as far as work goes, my dad has them all the time. He's always telling us, "Well, I went to the temple about this work problem and got the answer." And I'm like, I don't think about work. I don't know. I should probably more, but um, anyway, that was neat. Just, yeah, pray to the Lord over your flocks, right? That's the equivalent today.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so you got 4 kids now, and
Yep.
you've got you're growing as a family and growing your house and working, and you got the side hustle. How are you finding time to give everyone the attention that they need and give them the the love that they need from their dad and husband, and how are you balancing all that? And it's okay if you're not, but because most
Yeah.
of us aren't.
Yeah. I, we have the things that we've decided we're going to do, and then the way we actually do them,
Yeah,
the goals and ideas. And the ideas, I think, are all pretty good. The idea is to do a one-on-one date with each kid each month for each of us, right? And so they're going to get a one-on-one experience every other week with one of the parents. It, we haven't been great at executing that, but it's a really good idea. And then I read somewhere that even just 7 minutes, like one-on-one with each kid each day, is huge. And so same thing. It's a really good idea. I don't know that it always happens. Um, I definitely need to be better at putting away my phone in the evenings after work. Um, it's one thing me and my wife talk about a lot. We need to do that better. Um, but we try and do a lot of camping and stuff together, and when we're camping, that's where electronics are put away, and we're very very much fully present, and the kids love that. um, and yeah, where I'm working on the side gig in the evenings and things, that's where, yeah, I a lot of the time sitting there working on a book and working on a book, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't need the money right now. I should just go spend time with my family. But it's fun and it's a good thing and whatever. But yeah, I definitely need to be better. I do love spending time with them. We've got yeah, all kinds of different activities that we're going on right now. Um, my wife and I did hiked Timpanogos for our anniversary earlier this month, and so we backpacked up there and camped like 2 miles below the summit by a little lake, and all these mountain goats came down and surrounded our tent all night, pretty much just munching away in the meadow. So that was the
that's
first
cool.
time we've done an overnighter away from the kids since the baby was born, and that was great. We definitely need to do something like that every year. Get out. I call it an epic. We need to go do an epic every year together. Um, and then yeah, get the kids out on stuff too. Hopefully next weekend I'm going to take my 8-year-old backpacking, um, and I want to make that kind of a rite of passage thing. That's the year you get baptized, we're going to go on a backpacking trip together, and just us, right? Even though my 6-year-old could probably do it too, we're just going to go me and her.
Yeah. That kind of stuff is really cool. I did a 12-year-old trip with each of my kids, and that was just, it was awesome. And then last year I took my kids and my wife. I took everybody on an individual trip with just me, where we went somewhere, either flying or driving, but it was just us going, and it was, that kind of stuff is just so meaningful because everybody wants the attention and the
Yeah,
one-on-one time. And even when you try really hard to do it during the week at home and stuff, it's a lot different when you do, like, when you actually go somewhere together. And it helps everybody see what they can do by themselves that they don't do
yeah,
it by themselves at home. And
yeah.
that's fun.
Well, and the interaction with kids, especially, they're so different when it's one on one,
Yeah.
versus when they're all together. A lot
Yeah.
less fighting.
Yeah. That is very true. Yeah. Well, any words of wisdom that you want to share as we close out here?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it was interesting the last couple of days reflecting on the past year, um, and interesting to think about what the next year is going to bring.
Any predictions that you want to make for next year?
I think within a year we will watch a fully AI movie. I don't know. It's not going to be in theaters because there's no way the theaters are going to go for that.
Yeah.
But somebody like a Netflix or Amazon Prime or somebody is going to betray the studios and
Yeah.
run an AI movie.
Yeah. Well, Higgsfield did release uh, a movie that was 90 minutes and
No,
was like full feature length, and it was I didn't watch it. I started to, but then it wasn't intriguing to me, so I stopped. But that I do think that is definitely going to happen, and
yeah,
I think you follow this guy. I think did you put it in the notes? Yeah, you did about the guy doing a
yeah,
Book of
the
Mormon series on the Stripling Warriors.
yeah.
That'd
I
be
think that'll
pretty
be
cool.
cool. Really, I have a brother who's an aspiring filmmaker, and he's just bent out of shape about AI. Um, and I look at it like, look, what you can do now is you can make a movie with no budget, right? Like you can make a blockbuster with no budget that would have cost $100 million 10 years ago. What
Yeah.
this is doing is this is allowing anybody to be creative. So if you're really a good filmmaker, you can make that film, right? You just don't
Yeah.
have to be the director and the costume maker and all that. This is unleashing creativity. This is not stifling creativity. You know, and again, it's
Yeah.
similar with my books where I I don't have to learn to paint to be a creator, right?
Yeah. Well, and my philosophy on that is that uh if you are using it for good and creation, then it can
Hmm.
be a God-given gift. If you are using it
Yeah,
for things that tear people down or make things bad for people, then you're using it as Satan's tool. And
yeah.
uh it's not too hard to look at what you're creating and say this is a
Hmm.
gift from God, and this is uh, definitely not a gift from God.
Yeah, well, it makes me. I was just thinking of in Ether when it talks about the brother of Jared moving the Mount Gerizim or whatever it's called. You know, uh, I don't think the Lord did that with a bunch of shovels. And someone at the time, I'm sure, was like, "Well, you just took away a lot of jobs by moving that mountain." It's like, well, sure, but nobody wants to go out and shovel a
Yep.
mountain, right?
That is what somebody would say today for sure. Yeah, very good. All right.